and tech-enabled services forward into the markets with our customers. I like to start with a story, and I'm going to tell you one today, a story that I also gave to the team in Dubai. It starts with a trip that I took in September of last year to Washington, D.C. I had a very short trip, and one of my very close friends who is a serial entrepreneur of an AI company, his name is Jitendra Vyas. You can look him up. He's a great entrepreneur. And over the years, he's built many products and even launched services companies. When he heard I was in town and I didn't have a lot of time, he says, let's meet and I'll come pick you up. And even if we have a little bit of time on your way to the airport, we'll catch up. So he picked me up and we were on our way to take me to the airport. Very little bit of time. He told me in that time that, this will be a great chance for us to catch up and for me to tell you about my new venture. But when he got into the car, he picked up the phone and made a phone call to his dentist. He had a procedure that he needed to take care of. It was a bridge. And his conversation started with the receptionist specifically about his experience, what it was going to be like, that he was a little bit nervous about having this type of procedure. And this receptionist responded saying, I'm happy to help you. If you want, I can change the appointment date. I can take the notes down and explain to the doctor about your concerns. And I started wondering, why is this guy having this call when he was so keen on spending a little bit of time with me in the car? And now he's spending all of his time with this receptionist, and I can hear the conversation, a little bit awkward, asking questions like, my tooth is hurting, and what should I be eating, or should I have an empty stomach prior to the procedure, et cetera, et cetera. And it's going on. He's asking questions, she's answering patiently. Finally, the receptionist responds back and says, I understand that all your questions and concerns. Would you like to have a meeting with the doctor prior to the procedure? And I can also delay the procedure. It's not a problem. And then it dawned on me, this was not a person at all he was speaking to, but it was artificial intelligence. And not only was it just an AI conversation with a human in a very natural form, but it was very intuitive, appreciating and understanding his fears, his concerns, understanding that he doesn't just need to reschedule, but he needed something more, assurance. He needed to understand what the procedure would be and how he needed to prepare for it. You see, that AI wasn't just taking the space and position of a receptionist. It was also supporting the actual procedure itself by preparing the patient. I started smiling and he hung up the phone and said, this is my new company. Inspiration Applied is all about the application of these new technologies into the services business that we've had since the 2000 period. We're empowering enterprises through breakthrough innovations. Today, we continue to navigate. We navigate an era exacerbated by geopolitical conflict. Conflict in the Middle East, conflict in Asia, conflict in the South China Sea, now conflict in Central America and Panama, where AI and technology are rapidly replacing labor in all of these areas. But also, supply chains are being rewritten and they're being rebuilt and redeveloped post-COVID. This is creating new opportunities for India, and India will be in a very important role for the next 20 years, and in a leadership role. This is our thesis. We had a very similar conversation with our team in Dubai and our clients there just a few days ago, focused on the Middle East. And it was a very different conversation in light of the geopolitical conflicts. And those conflicts are having real results that are really shaping our business today. So if you consider the recent meeting with Modi and Trump, just here in February, we talked a moment ago about fast-changing information. A new economic alliance has been signed with the United States. That's a $500 billion trade agreement. New military alliance, which will bring F-35s and the latest technology to India to support and protect the northern border region. A new technology alliance focused on transforming the relationship, utilizing strategic technologies. This is huge. This is huge. The United States has only chosen 18 countries which will have open silicon chip manufacturing and trading with. And they're all allied countries, plus a few additional countries, of which India is one, which it will maintain this trading relationship. And so I remember 4 or 5 years ago when we started talking about the impact of these global conflicts and the divisions between Russia, China, and US, Europe, and other friendly nations. And I made a statement which even some in my own company had concerns about, which was India is really not a neutral country anymore. The notion that India was or is or used to be is somewhat dated today because there is pure 100% economic integration in the leading technology areas from space to IT, technology, and innovation. So whether I'm a Google or whether I'm a Microsoft, it really doesn't matter. My technology stack is fully integrated between the United States, India, and Europe. And this matters because it allows for this to happen. And so as we think about what that means for India, but not just India, but for its trading partners and its alliances, it is reshaping our industry. How is it reshaping the industry? Well, first, the US-India Compact, also announced in 2025, catalyzing opportunities for military partnership, accelerating commerce and technology, defense investments, space collaboration. How many of you are familiar with NISAR? NISAR is a NASA and Indian Space Agency collaboration on geopositioning and mapping the Earth, not just the atmosphere, but also the ground level, water levels, etc. These are unprecedented connections. When India went to the moon, what technology was India using? The same technology used by JPL, that was created by JPL in the United States by Indian engineers, born and raised in the United States. It's purely integrated. Lam Research, $1 billion in the semiconductor industry coming here, exiting Taiwan, creating a risk mitigation strategy to China. Apple Inc., they call it their quiet pivot. You know what that is? They're quietly pivoting from China to India, expecting 25% of all Apple products to be made here. One of our large clients, General Electric, for the first time brought its F414 engines, its highest IP, here to be built in India. Let me tell you why this is so remarkable. Because I was here 20 years ago on similar stages, and the big issue was what? Intellectual property protection. Why? There can be no innovation without intellectual property protection. Is China an innovator today? Are they an innovator? Or are they stealing and taking technology and building on it to make it better? What is DeepSeek? It is everybody else's technology and a plus. And I say that because when you have intellectual property protection, then entrepreneurs want to innovate. Earlier last year, I was here in Delhi at a TiCon conference, and I saw almost 150, 200 startups, very similar to what I remember in the Y2K timeframe in the Silicon Valley. And it was just exciting. So this is a opportunity for our companies, our partners based out of India, to create new type of services relationship that's highly driven by technology as we move forward in an environment of not only alliance, but also in a market that we can really leverage that labor arbitrage / technology investment, right? Creating more productivity between human beings and their clients. So basically, as I've been saying, the startup and tech industry between India and the United States is completely integrated. It's a single market with venture capital, talent, and innovation freely moving between the countries. And it's funny because in some ways my life has gone full circle. I started out in the 1990s a presidential political appointee. I was a lawyer practicing law. I was an enforcement lawyer in the US government. And who would have thought that the issues that mattered to me then would somehow find their way to matter to me here now today? And that's sort of the full circle I find very interesting. Because the global economic environment and the relationship between these two countries has been spoken of since the world was flat with Thomas Friedman in the early 2000s. And we have so much more to go. So from technology transfer to talent mobility to global competency centers, investment and funding integration, and policy and regulatory alignment, we are starting to see the reformation of a new industry. An industry based on technology and making more productive human beings. The notion that we are going to race to the bottom with lower cost resources every year, we are going to redo our managed services agreements to create another 15 or 20% savings. Those days are over. It's not sustainable. But it will be replaced by this. India must shift its outsourcing models today to a new paradigm driven by technology-driven innovation. And Avasant, we are at the forefront of this analysis. Today, I'm proud to announce that we are launching Avasant AI Engineering. And Avasant AI Engineering has already been successful solving problems through the use of AI and business process. We are a strategy and consulting firm, and we are a data-based business. And now we will bring AI engineering to be able to solve our client problems as well. And I'm very excited about it. And it's not happening because it's something that we are doing necessarily intentionally. It is something that our clients are pulling us into. And our partners, all of you, are pulling us into. So with this disruptive innovation, human productivity rises, right? The more we use AI-based technologies and other tech, we can expect human beings to be more productive, meaning getting more value out of that 1 hour or that 1 minute of their time. And I showed this slide last year for those of you that were here, and you got a bit of an incomplete story. The story that you got was that when the disruptive innovation happens, there is labor displacement, right? The labor has to be retrained. When the iPhone came, what happened? It resulted in labor displacement. The people that were building the phones before had to be retrained to build the new ones. And these technologies actually resulted in a different way of working. Similarly, with every new innovation, the time for labor to kind of reskill and get reacquainted with this new technology has been getting shorter. The part of the story that we didn't discuss last year is what happens as we move forward And the moment in time becomes where the innovation and the ability for labor to respond becomes a zero-time gap. And that's where we are today. You dream it and it happens. I want to write an article. I go to generative AI. These are my conclusions. These are my theories. Article drafted. I want code written. Code written. I want it implemented. Implemented. As I dream it, it happens. I want a new engineering design. Designed. I want it printed. 3D printed. There is no opportunity for labor anymore to react to the innovation. The innovation and the labor reaction is instant. It happens at the same time. And that is what's new from this year and last year. Last year, the entire services industry grew by how much? That is, Accenture, Wipro, TCS, every major service provider. How much did it grow? Not by more than 1% collectively. What happened to that industry? What happened? From the fastest growing industry in the world to barely holding on for dear life. This happened. And clients paused. And they recognized, Avasant, you can't get us any more savings out of these deals. What are we going to do differently? How are we going to transform our environment? Will it be a GCC? Will it be a tech-enabled service? How are we going to go to market differently? And they paused. Last year, Avasant also were relatively flat. We didn't see tremendous deal growth as we are seeing now. But the deals now are highly transformative in nature. And what did Rakesh tell you just moments ago? The number of $100 million mega deals is rising. And you know what? That's our specialty. We're not excited about taking a $100 million deal and shuffling it out like a deck of cards to 5 service providers. That is not what we do. We bring an ecosystem of capabilities together and we drive solution and results in partnership with service providers and technology firms. That is very different than some of our competitors, which seek your praise for a few $1 million, destroy the deal, and left without any client success. This is a time of bold decisions, making large bets, and creating new value for our clients and their customers. So the value of labor arbitrage is declining. Why? Salaries are rising. Wage inflation. Rising labor productivity. Productivity is going up. Global conflicts and geopolitical uncertainty. Redrawing supply chains. All of this is contributing to the decline of the value that labor arbitrage has given us for the last 25 years. So from managed services to tech-enabled services, what is the journey? What is the journey? From the 1990s, we outsourced IT services, business process services, transformational services. And during that time, the value of labor arbitrage stayed above the investment, which meant we could continue to show savings to our clients. But what happened? What happened? Today, that value is declining. We cannot continue the way we are going because that race to the bottom is upon us without making this technology investment. The technology investments will drive us forward. The future belongs to specialists as well. If you are familiar with this particular case study, it was conducted by the JAMA Network in New York. And this is a really great story about why specialists are so important. How many of you are avidly using some type of generative AI? I expect all of you to raise your hand. You're not raising your hand. Okay. So what do you know about it? Well, you know a few things. One, if you are an expert and you're asking the right questions, you're going to get a better answer. If you're not an expert and you're asking the questions, you're going to get an answer. Now, whether you can evaluate the truth, the veracity, and the quality of that answer, again, begins with your level of expertise. They took a list of symptoms and they put it into generative AI, ChatGPT, nothing different than what is off the shelf. And they said, based on these symptoms, what are the likely causes? Can you tell us what this patient is likely suffering from? ChatGPT, off the shelf, 90% accuracy. Uploading the scans, uploading the documents and notes from the doctor, and whatever other tests were taken in this analysis. When doctors were provided the same information, they got about a 70% accuracy rate in the determination of what the problem was. When doctors used the same ChatGPT, they went up to 74%. When the generative AI model was used on its own, it was 90% accurate. So what happened? I mean, the doctors brought down the AI. Is that what happened? No. But yes, kind of. We don't know how to use the technology correctly. That's the first thing that the JAMA study demonstrated, is that we expected physicians to take ChatGPT and go from 90% to 100% or 98% or a very high number. But that didn't happen. Is it the arrogance of human beings that they know what's right more than ChatGPT? What was really going on? So what really was going on, as it's come to be seen, is we have to be trained in using the technology correctly. But also it's how human beings make decisions. You see, human beings make linear decisions, and we eliminate decision trees. This is why we get a second opinion. Linear decisions. Something fell down. So what do I mean by that? If you're presented with 5 symptoms, the human doctor will look at those 5 symptoms, say 90% this is a common cold. 10% it's something else. I'm going to go down this track. And they start getting more data that is substantiating that. At some point, they discover that it's not the common cold, but they're way down on the decision tree over here, and they've forgotten about this unlikely prognosis. Now, a second person or doctor needs to come in and says, let me look at this fresh, and I'll take you down this road. AI does not have that deficiency. AI is able to continuously examine all of the prognosis, all of the symptoms, even the new ones that are categorized down the road of the decision tree, and look at it fresh. And that's why it's at 90%. So our physicians need to be retrained. But if you're not a physician, you can't really use the technology effectively. So that's the specialization part of it. If we are going to be more specialists than generalists, then what does that say about the outsourcing industry and managed services? You see, what we've done in the last 25 years is take the IIT engineer that supported our customers and replace them with a tier 3 or tier 4 or whatever tier university candidate that's a generalist that we give very limited expertise to, and we throw bodies at the problem, and maybe a good solution comes out of it. But we're returning to a time now where those specialist expertise will be required. Look at the year-over-year growth rate of tech players and how they've outperformed managed services. Are we in the wrong business? I would ask myself that question. If you look at managed service providers and their year-over-year growth, that's pretty depressing. They're way down here, by the way. Look at the tech companies. So we will need to create that merger of solution, and it's coming. Disruptive tech promises over 50% productivity gains. That means it's okay to hire specialists and smarter people that cost more money because we're going to make them more productive. The way that we're going to get lower cost is by making the right investments to have fewer people supporting projects versus larger teams. We know this, but why haven't we been able to do this in the last 5 years? Because of the maturity of the technology. Now the technology maturity is getting to a point where we are seeing productivity gains from 36 to 52% in contact centers, human resources, procurement, app development, maintenance, IT and BPO alike. Our AI engineering group was tasked recently. This is CEPI. Okay, what is CEPI? CEPI is the World Center for Vaccine Research. They give almost $500 million a year in vaccine research money. They get the money from world governments, from major foundations like the Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation. They use that money to drive research and development. They have between 12 to 18 months to give those funds away to different pharmaceutical companies, universities, and those that are providing proposals of new areas of research. It was CEPI that invested in Moderna that led to the development of an additional vaccine. So this is a very real, important organization. So what is their problem that we were able to solve? Their problem is that if they can't give the money away in a certain short duration, that money will be taken back by the government or that foundation that gave it to them. So they had to break this model because human beings were taking 18 to 21 months to decide where to give the money. Avasant did an analysis of the business process around it, and our engineering group built an LLM and a small language model designed to tackle the problem. We brought the solution to 3 months, which means the money could be identified for a matching proposal and distributed in 3 to 5 months. Huge. They still need people. They still have scientists. They still have their technology partners. But the business processes came to save the day with the technology. So the journey from managed services to tech-enabled services is already upon us. Every day, Avasant experiences customers that are challenged with solving problems around how they're going to go to market, how are they going to build their next GCC, how are they going to implement a new blockchain solution, whatever it might be. And we bring those capabilities with you as partners. This is a new world. Over 65% of Avasant's deal transactions are sole source. They're not even RFP competed. Clients want to move fast. They want solutions that are going to work. The world is changing. As tech disrupts labor, managed services providers are becoming more specialized. And what that means is we can move up the stack. In the 2000 period, what were we outsourcing? Accounts payable, payroll, order management, simple processes. As we got better at it, we moved into this second band and we started outsourcing more complex processes. But today, with specialized labor and the support of AI solutions, we will be outsourcing treasury. We will be outsourcing tax accounting, complex services and solutions that are driven by technology. that we couldn't before. Because everything here is mostly becoming automated. So now the outsourcing equation is driving us to higher value services empowered by AI and technology. So managed service providers must index to technology adoption. And we need to do that over our labor-based models. And if we don't, what happened last year was just the beginning of a tsunami that will result in the end and death of this industry. Throwing more bodies at the problem is not the solution. And yet, our account executives in the firms that you belong to, answer is always still the same. Let's just reduce the cost. We're out of time. We're out of capability. Without making this leap, we're also out of business. There is a 74% increase in demand for AI and automation specialists. Are you hiring them today? Inspiration applied means how do we bring these technologies to bear to create better labor solutions for the future, to create value for our customers in a manner that they haven't seen since 2002. And we can do it. We can do it. And we want to work with you and be part of that journey with you to make it happen. Thank you, and I look forward to meeting all of you at the break.